Do you even set a budget when it comes to health and safety? In case you even set a budget, planning is one thing, spending is another, and at the end of the year, the numbers may not even add up. But what if you have a specialized tool that helps you to track every city, dollar or pound spent on health and safety in real time? That is exactly what the HSE Budgeting Tool does. So this is the budgeting tool, and it just follows the same structure of our template where there's an approved list. Now this approved list is very, very important because this is where you set all the priority items or the HSE activities that you plan to implement for the year. Now take note that every activity has a cost element to it. There is no activity that is not a cost item, and that is exactly why budget is important, because you need budgetary approval from the top management. They can spend $200,000 on health and safety because they believe that safety is very important. In fact, if safety is expensive, try accident. So management already believe that safety is very important, and for that reason they are ready to give you a budgetary allocation as an HS manager. So this is where you're going to list all your priorities. So you have management system. So what are the activities related to management system? There's internal audit, there's external audit, there's supply evaluation, there's ISO certification. And then we have workplace ergonomics, assessment, exposure monitoring. And then we have general health and safety requirements like engineering control, hazard mitigation, hazard, even on PPEs, right? And then PPE can even break it down into gloves, the various types of gloves, hard hats, the various types of hard hats, hearing protection, respiratory protection, welding helmet, fall protection equipment, safety servicing and testing like automatic tests, portable appliance testing. We can talk about emergency exit maintenance, fire extinguisher inspections. These are some of the calibration and training. Now take note, this list is endless. You can keep updating this list for as long as you have a full grip of what your health and safety priorities are. We provided you some data that you can use as a reference. Now take note that each of these priority falls under a focus area. So we have the focus areas listed right in here. And then we have the various types of expenditures. It could be a capital expenditure like an engineering control, or it could be operating expenditure like just PPE. Spend on these things to keep the business running. But when it comes to capital expenditure, that's really like structural alteration and all of that. And then we have the categories, which is health, safety and environment, and then whether the item is a high priority or medium or low priority item. You have the list of years. So the recent update we introduced is the fact that now we are providing list of years, which means that we're trying to give you room for you to set your budget for years upon years. So the current year, which is 2025, you're going to have your budget that must be approved. The following year, you're going to set your budget as well. So now, in this new update, you can actually build a database of budgets so that you can actually learn from previous budgets. You don't have to start from scratch, or you don't have to look within a different template. Everything's going to be within this template, right? So we have the budget that we are planning for approval, and that is a budget planning template, just this sheet, right? So we provide the year. The priority item must be selected from the drop-down list. The focus area must be selected from the drop-down list. The type of budget it is, the priority level, the budgeted quantity, and then the rate that you're going to be using. So if you're talking about hours, you're going to look at the price being an hourly rate. If you're talking about quantity, then you're going to look at the price of the item. So the budgeted quantity multiplied by the price give us the budgeted cost. And then what is the purpose of this cost item? Internal audit, management system. Then the purpose is to improve the management system, right? And we give it a unique ID. So that is a new improvement here. We give it a unique ID because that is very important in differentiating between the current year and the previous year. So all the 2025 budgets, they're going to assign it to the budget, the priority item. So it's going to be in here as 2025 internal audit. Now, if you're in 2026, you're trying to set a budget, then you're going to have 2026 internal audit. All right. Now we have the source database. The source database, that is a HSE Expenditure Tracker. So this is where you take your time to track each item. Now every item that you're about to spend on, once you provide the date, right? If you provide the date, which is the year 2025, there's going to populate the year's budget. It's going to take note of the year's budget, because if you're in 2025, you should be spending on 2025 budget, or you should be spending based on 2025 budget. If you're in 2026, you should be spending based on the 2026 budget. So that's exactly what that's here. Once you select the date, you're going to give you the year's budget that is relevant for this date. So once you select the internal audit, the rest are all going to populate, right? So you select the type of priority item, the details of it. So for instance, internal audit, what is the purpose or what is the details? We are visiting all the sites for the first internal audit. It relates to the management system. It is an operating expenditure because we need to keep the business running with carrying out audits just to make sure that we are identifying all of these deviations. What is the number of times you're carrying out this internal audit? Maybe you can look at it in terms of one activity. It's one activity, right? So it's one. What is the budgeted cost? You've already planned it, right? For internal audit, we said one activity, the budgeted cost is 500. So that automatically populates in here as 500. And then the actual, right? We spent $150 with regards to this activity. This budgeted cost. So we have the cost in here. The budget difference is $350, and that is within the budget. So we've not exceeded the budget. So this is the database that works like magic. It helps you to track all your expenditures. It takes into account cumulative cost as you are inputting those priority items, and then it helps to eventually determine whether you are within or you've exceeded budget, because the cumulative cost will then be compared with the budgeted cost. Is going to give us the difference, and we use that to determine whether it is within or you've exceeded budget. All right. And then we have the dashboard. So basically this dashboard is looking at each focus area. All right. Okay, for some reason I don't know why it's not activating. Okay, so this is actually I use Power Query for this. So Power Query, Power Pivot sometimes is not compatible with MacBook. For that reason I'm not able to select, but if you're using a Windows laptop you'll be able to select. So I think that there's I need to look at usability of this, because I'm using a Mac, but I developed this. I did the recent changes using Windows laptop. So on Windows you'll be able to apply this filter. I think on Mac you're not able to do that. So this is just a new info that I've just discovered. So I may probably have to revert back to the previous setup. Okay, so I'm still not able to select. Oh man, that's a downside of MacBook. All right, so basically you input all the data and you refresh the workbook, and the dashboard is going to update accordingly. All right, so on the dashboard you have the total HSE budget, the total expenditure, the budgeted surplus, you have the trend, and you have this trend giving you perspective of what exactly is the total expenditure in a given month, and we are comparing the expenditure that was incurred against the budgeted cost to know whether you are actually within or above budget or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty much what this template does, but the excitement is pretty much the fact that we have the Power BI model of it. So let's have a look at the Power BI model. So we have get started. Get started is basically how you can actually use this template, because you're going to install the Power BI desktop on your computer, and if you want to purchase, just click in here, purchase now. It's going to take you to this page where you make a purchase. Right now let's go back to this sheet again. Now we go to the executive summary report. So giving you a lot more to play around. So we have our summary report, and we are looking at the approved budget, the actual spend, the remaining budget, and we have approved budget by focus, the budget utilization rate, how much are we exhausting as far as the budget is concerned given our actual expenditure. And this section is looking at the budgeted cost, the actual spend by focus area, and then we see the trend for the expenditure. Right, and we move on to the next, and that has to do with the budget planner dashboard. So basically, what type of expenditure have we planned? That is an operating expenditure. A total of 102,000 has been approved for operating expenditures, and then we have the budgeted priority item. The top 5 are going to be populated here, and then we have the various focus areas with their priority items or activities, the approved budget for all of these items, and then we have the budgetary allocation by focus area, and then we have the allocation by year. So every year as you build a budget, you're gonna have the year's budget showing in this field, in this visual like this. Okay, and then we move on to the next, which has to do with the expenditure tracker dashboard. So basically we have the actual spend, we have the remaining spend, we have the average spend, and then we have the actual spend being compared against the budgeted spend over multiple years. We have the actual spend trend, and then we have the approved budget utilization rate, the actual spend by focus areas. or I think I should make it the utilization rate by focus areas. Utilization rate by focus area. That will make a lot of sense. I'll do that. And then activity versus budgeted cost and actual spend and budgeted cost as well. So over here you can actually see whether you're within budget or you're above budget. And then we have budgeted versus actual dashboard. So the budget versus actual dashboard. So this one is taking us into a lot more details. All right. So this is the percentage budget consumed. Right, so the utilization rate is right in here, and then the budgeted cost, actual spend is over here, and then the percentage that are on budget, over budget, and within budget, and then the overall variance, basically the variance for how much have we exceeded the budget given the items that we are tracking, not the overall approved budget, but then what have been planned within the HSE expenditure. Because once you select the item, it's going to tell you the budgeted cost, and then your actual spend is going to compare against it. So whatever we have in the tracker is what we are accounting for it here as budgeted cost. So if it's not on the tracker, it's not going to be here, right? So that's pretty much it. So we can actually look at each focus area, like the health and well-being. We can tell how far we've exceeded the budget. Now take note, the total for health and well-being is 18,900, and then the actual spend is 17,400. So that gives us a difference of $1,500. So we actually are within the budget, and for that reason it is showing as green. However, if we exceed the budget, it's going to show as red. All right, so which means that within workplace ergonomics, the budgeted cost is 8,300, but we spent 15,400. That's a lot. So we've exceeded the budget by 7,100. Okay, and then we move on to the next, which is the variance. The variance, we're looking at the difference at the focus with respect to the approved budget, and then the difference with respect to the budgeted cost, which is within the tracker. So that gives us basically in a very detailed perspective. When we click on management system right now, you can tell that under management system, there's a budgeted cost, actual expenditure, the variance. Some of them are actually positive variance, which are within the budget, and for that reason it's showing in here. All right, and then there's a trend line that is comparing the actual against a cumulative score against the budgeted score, right? The budget cost line. So budget cost line is always the maximum of the budgets within the tracker. So there's a total of 60,000. If I clear the filter, the actual spend is 62. Budgeted cost is around 60,000. So we've exceeded the budgeted cost by about 2,000. All right, so that is basically what we have in here. We've rounded up the figure, so it's telling us 2,000, but it's actually 1,620. All right, so we've exceeded that. For that reason, we're having a longer difference here. So what really account for the difference? The difference is mainly coming from ergonomics, right? We click on ergonomics, it tells us the difference on the ergonomics, because that's where we have a lot of the variances coming from. The variances are mainly coming from ergonomics, as you can see here, because we budgeted 3,000, but we spent 6,000. Over here we budgeted 5,000, we spent 9,100. So this one gives us a perspective of the variance coming from which focus area. So the green is a positive variance, which implies that we are within budget, but the red is a negative variance, which implies that we have exceeded the budget, right? So that's pretty much it. So that's how exciting this template is, giving a lot more data visualization features in the Power BI model, right? Now I'll probably look at the Excel version, because I noticed that I introduced a Power Pivot, and Power Pivot is not available on MacBook. All right, so we use Power Pivot to connect the two databases, which is the budget planner and then the HSE Expenditure Tracker. So following the linkage, we notice that it's not working on MacBook, but it works on Windows. Maybe I'm not going to change it here. So let's assume everybody uses Windows. Those who complain with the MacBook may revert, and I'm going to change it for them. All right, so thank you all for your attention. I'm going to see you guys in another video. Bye for now.